griddle. I'm turning it on 300 degrees. And this is going to be for the banana pancakes. It's basically egg whites. If you do it really plain, it's just egg whites and a banana. And you just wipe a little bit of butter on it. And then that's a really handy protein snack you can take with you. So you're not having to use like protein bars that have like a ton of all kinds of ingredients, you know, and, you know, artificial sweeteners and whatnot all in it.
1 cup of egg whites and a whole banana.
Mm-hmm. The more banana with the egg white, you know, obviously the better flavor, but I'm thinking, you know, you are on a diet, you need a snack that doesn't take up a ton of calories. So then I just now, if you want them to be a little bit more, you'll see they have a little bit more moisture because of how much egg is there, but I need the protein content. You can add a little bit of protein powder,
Okay.
or you can add some coconut flour, or you could add some oats, depending on what your diet is. If you're on a paleo diet, then, you know, oats are out and a lot of protein and powders are out.
Do you ever put a little stevia in there, or you don't need the extra sweetness?
You usually, I don't need it, but you could. I mean, you could put vanilla flavor in it.
Peanut butter.
Yes, I mean, you can take something that right now is very plain for, I would recommend this if you're on a 1,200 calorie diet and you need a protein snack. Let's face it, you can't afford.
Right.
This is it right here.
This is it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're on maintenance and now you're not losing anymore and you have 1,500, 1,800, or 2,000 calories left, you can be more luxurious about what you do with it. I had these yesterday and I had a little bit of a sweet tooth and I used some jelly.
To put it on, like,
But the
maybe
great
butter.
thing is you literally could eat all of those, the whole cup, right?
Thing.
So instead of
So
eating
there's
a 210 calorie protein bar that doesn't fill you up as much, you can eat all of those and you still have quite a bit left in there, probably another
Yeah, all
4 or
of those.
5
Yeah.
left to make.
Here's the thing though,
gosh,
you can
just
only
like
fool your body so much. Like when I eat these, I mean it's a plate that is filled like that, and I can just eat it and it's gone. And I'm like, it's definitely more filling than if I ate a protein bar. But
Yeah.
your eyes may think like it's very easy. Like for me, it's very easy to digest and relatively fast to digest. So it's not like I'm going to be stuffed forever. At least I'm not. I don't know about other people. But the key on when you make these is they have to be a certain brownness and a certain length on there before you can really turn them.
Right, I noticed that.
Yeah.
So
if
they
you-
take a little time to make.
And then film on this one. Maybe zoom in on this one if you can. It's it puffs up a little bit, and that's from the egg white. So if I was to take them off now, they would be super moist.
Okay.
I like them to when they go down again a little bit, and
They get a little crispy at all?
they don't really get
They
crispy
don't? Okay.
because of the egg white. Now, if you were to add coconut flour or oats and blend it with an oat flour or regular flour, you know, if you got flour in your diet and you don't want to be gluten free or whatever, you know, you could add flour to it and make a real regular pancake out of it. Okay, so this is chicken breast. I like to, you know, when I get it and I do my food prep, this has just some liquid smoke on it,
How much?
and
Did you put in the whole
just
thing?
just a few squirts,
Okay.
you know, to rub it in. And then you can either do some salt and pepper, some different herbs, or you can have a spice mix. You just want to be careful with the spice mixes. If it ends up having an ingredient list like that and all kinds of stuff that you can't even spell, I would stay away from it.
What's
So I put the chicken in the oven.
mm-hmm.
Oh, I need it actually higher up. So if you could
Okay, let me
film this,
mm-hmm. Got it going.
it's on broil.
Oh, you're broiling it. Okay.
So the heat is coming from the top.
Mm-hmm. And I noticed you don't have it on the very top. You have it on the second to the top.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
about good.
Okay.
Okay, and I'll time it. I think it's about 15 minutes or so that it will take.
Okay.
Show this.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I mean,
So these are beets,
trying to get over him.
and beets are really hard to peel, and they stain everything red.
do.
So the way I do it to make it easy is you cook them first and then you peel them, because then it comes off way easy. So I get them from the grocery store in here, and now
I roasted beets.
Look at that back. Look at that back. What she's talking about.
I tell you,
Now, what are you shaking in there? A little salt?
yeah.
Dirt.
And I put a little bit of more salt because it's really only on the outside. I want a good amount.
Sorry,
So
Lisa.
then I put maybe like a cup of just distilled vinegar, just a cheap one, because it's just to kind of give them a little bit more flavor.
Because you're German.
You're not really, drinking that part.
Okay. That's the German in her.
So then it will. You want to cook them and boil them until they get like soft. I want to say kind of that when you poke in them, like consistency of a potato that's
Okay.
done.
Like 30 minutes?
Okay.
Depending on how, I guess.
Like sometimes it can take an hour depending on how big they are.
Okay, so
I
you're
take a picture and I take a video. vice versa.
you're cutting up vegetables, and it looks like we have some summer squash, some zucchini, some onion over here, and that's a white onion.
Yes.
Or yellow?
And then any kind you want to, and then just some whole mushrooms, and I just kind of washed them off. And then I slice it about this thickness right here. So now you can stop it again. And
Okay,
then,
so that's a nice chunk, not too big or too thin, but good size. Used. So you just cut the onion in two, and then you just made slices, so they're nice chunks.
nice chunks right here. Mushrooms. Now I'm gonna put
I like the way you're measuring, because a free hand you never really know.
1 tablespoon of olive oil.
What kind of olive oil? Extra virgin? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It kind of depends on whatever you prefer. Oh, this is, by the way, another option too, the light Morton salt. If you want to reduce the sodium a little bit, but we could, like, for example, use that on the veggies, and you could try it. Then you can use a little bit more.
Now that's great. The whole thing you only used 1 tablespoon. I would have thought, oh my gosh, I have to use 2 or 3 because I have such a
No.
large portion.
And then this here is just Italian seasoning, which is just herbs.
So no salt.
No salt on this. Another thing I like to use is fresh ground pepper. Tastes always better than already ground pepper, similar to coffee. And it's a little bit sweet, tarragon, sweet herb. So I'm going to sprinkle a little bit on this.
We'll say, why aren't you focused on the food? Why are you always looking at Carmen's arms?
So now, because I have only 1 tablespoon of olive oil on there, it's important that you stir it up before you put it in the oven. Otherwise, you just have patches of olive oil. But I want to kind of maximize to get it on everything as much as possible.
I can't believe you could do that with 1 tablespoon. Who knew?
And really, with the amount of veggies here, you could put 2 on there, and it all depends how many veggies you eat.
Onions.
This might also taste great, putting some fresh garlic on it. So there's all kinds of stuff you can do.
Exactly what I was thinking.
But, a lot of times when I'm in a pinch, I might just use this because I'm like, okay, I'm in a hurry and I don't feel like
peeling and slicing
and doing all
mincing.
this. So now this is going to go in the oven, and I'm going to roast it for about 45 minutes probably.
Okay.
Usually at about 400 degrees Fahrenheit, but I have to wait until I take the chicken out. So one easy way that I love to make broccoli really quick is a little bit of salt in a dish, a little bit of water.
How much is a little bit?
Oh, just, what is that, a half a cup?
Okay.
Just enough to kind of cover the bottom and create some steam.
Okay.
Broccoli never tastes as good as if I make it in the microwave. I have no idea why.
So it's a covered dish.
Yeah, so now I put, let's say 4 minutes for now, and then we'll see if it's good. Okay? So
Sounds
you can. So this is a red cabbage, and I'm going to show you guys how to make a sweet and sour cabbage. So I just cut this part out.
Yeah, anything that's like purple and it's supposed to have a lot of antioxidants in it, or dark red or something. I think that's true.
That's what I've heard too.
I did hear that. But is it those people telling us? The breakfast people?
Yeah. The cabbage producers of America.
So then
Okay.
I'll just cut it about like this.
Okay.
The whole thing. Okay?
Your arms look huge in that video.
She's debunking my myth that you need so much more oil. Okay.
Yeah, you don't
So that's
need
great.
much, just a little bit. And I like to brown the cabbage on the bottom a little bit, so I don't put all of it in just yet.
Okay.
I'm gonna put, and you guys should be eating some of the food, is a little bit of salt and pepper,
Brown pepper.
a little bit of salt and pepper.
Brown cloves.
Yeah, ground cloves, a little bit of that.
Cloves are awesome. They have the highest concentration of polyphenols. Did you know that, Carmen?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you told me that. So then I stir it up a little bit before I add more cabbage in, because as I'm adding more cabbage in, I won't be able to stir it in that pot anymore.
The workers track through that and cook the cabbage.
So this is all stuff, like after you went shopping, you can get all these different pots going and it can kind of cook by itself. The oven is going and it has roasted vegetables and all this stuff tastes good for the whole week. Okay.
So this is going to be your last real stir, right?
Yeah. See, now I can see how some of it is getting a little bit brown. And you can smell it, that it's starting to get a little bit roasted. I want to roast it just a little bit longer before I put additional cabbage in it and before I put balsamic vinegar in it. And a little bit of olive oil, and cut up an apple in little pieces, or you can also use raisins, and then mix that up with that broccoli that we just made. It's really good.
So that's like an alternative to that high mayonnaise bacon broccoli salad
Yes.
that people have.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so we're back over to the cabbage,
Yeah, back over to the cabbage.
and you're letting it kind of brown, and
Just
A
a little
little
bit.
bit.
Yeah, just a little bit. So now,
but you still haven't added any extra oil or anything, have you?
no.
That's amazing to me.
So now, I put this in.
Okay.
It has already shrunk down just a little bit. Oh, here's a, I didn't want that big part. So now, because the bottom was already seasoned, but the top guys haven't gotten anything. So I'm gonna season it again, kind of the next layer. And then comes one of the best parts. These size pieces,
So like bite-sized chunks.
Yep. If you get a sweet apple, the sweeter the better.
Okay.
You know,
So pink ladies will be yummy.
1/3 of a cup
Oh, balsamic vinegar.
of balsamic vinegar for the whole pot, for the whole head of cabbage.
So that's how it stays moist. Because I was worried once the oil burned off.
And what you can do, so now I'm turning it on low,
What was it on before? Medium?
about 7.
Okay. Oh wow. Okay, so
And here's the thing, if your moisture is starting to go down too much, like right now it's a little bit hotter than what I want it to be, but you can always add another 1/3 of a cup of water. So because I could already tell that some of it was like sizzling away down there, I'm just going to give it a tad more. But the cabbage itself will release its water down into the bottom. So you don't want to overdo it
okay.
because otherwise it loses the flavor.
Okay.
And then what also tastes good in there, so just put 1 bay leaf. We can take that out later. And so for now, I put a lid on it until we have an apple. I have it on broil right now because I wanted them to brown first, but there's quite a bit of steam coming out from all the moisture of the veggies, so I'm just gonna let it broil for a little longer so it gets a little brown on top. Okay.
I'm getting there.
So I just put a whole apple in there,
Okay. And you just
a nice sweet apple. If for whatever reason it's not quite sour enough or it's not quite sweet enough, you could add just a tad bit of stevia, or you could add a little bit more of balsamic vinegar. Really, it's an entire pot, so that balsamic vinegar is not going to add a ton of calories. It's going to be minimal on per portion.
and it was 1/3 a cup.
That was
you
1/3
added.
of a cup so far. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we can stop that. This is starting to get a little brown there. So I think I'm going to turn this to 400 degrees now.
And before it was at.
It was broiling on high.
Okay. So now we're going to 400.
So now we're going to 400. So I have, or maybe let's do 450. But now the heat is going to come more from the bottom, a little bit more.
Do you have a convection oven?
Yes. So now, I want you guys to try the butternut squash. And this is where I gave an example of a good and a bad butternut squash. So you guys can try with your forks, or here I'll.
Saying different variations of good and not so good.
Yeah. So you can put one on your plate.
Hey, listen,
Or-
jicama is full of prebiotic fiber. I didn't know that. I didn't know anything about it. Actually.
Try the bad one.
Well, I'm going right for the bad one. I don't want to taste the good, and then that's what mine tastes like the other day.
Yeah. So yeah, I had a bad
So-
one. And mashed cauliflower in a pressure cooker.
All right, you guys take care. Talk to you soon. Thank you.
Mashed cauliflower in the pressure cooker.
Pressure cooker, just a little bit of water in the bottom. And then,
We should do a show called Carmen's Kitchen.
I know, all the gadgets. So I put in 6 minutes in the pressure cooker. It'll take time for it to heat up, for the pressure to come up.
Right.
These guys are just so handy
Yeah.
because it times it automatically, nothing bad happens to it. I have other pressure cookers too, but it's
The
just
Cuisinart is the best.
they're super fast and they like retain more nutrients and more flavor than if you boil something in a ton of water. Then a lot of nutrients and flavor goes in the water. Cauliflower to like what you would use if you don't want to use rice. It has a lot less carbs, a lot less calories. And once you make the fried cauliflower, you can also make other things with it. So once it's done, you can either eat it kind of like a couscous or a rice side dish, but you can also take it and then add things like egg white and make like a pizza dough out of it or something like that, you know. So I put it in the food processor. So sometimes it doesn't want to all, and then I need it a little bit smaller so the machine takes it all.
Now that's fresh, is that correct?
That is fresh cauliflower.
Is there anything else in the food processor besides the cauliflower?
Just cauliflower.
So Carmen spends a lot of time working out and doing dishes.
So
I'm going to the next tape.
large skillet, 1 tablespoon of olive oil. I put it on number 7. So this has kind of like a rice, well maybe more couscous consistency. And I show you some of the seasonings I personally like to put on it. So the key was cauliflower. Cauliflower, and you asked me about other things too, cabbage, and like you asked about Brussels sprouts. All those kind of vegetables, also broccoli, they have sulfates in it or sulfur in it, and it can create a lot of gas. So the key with those kind of vegetables is to cook them long. You want to thoroughly cook them.
Take 3, seasonings.
Okay, so I like to put a little bit of salt on it, and then a little bit of garlic powder. Now you can have some fun with it too, and put some curry, maybe some ginger,
Our magic cabinet.
maybe some turmeric, or turmeric, or I'm not good with the pronunciation of the things.
And how much oil did you put in there? Olive oil? 1 tablespoon?
1 tablespoon. If it's a whole big head, I'll put 2 or just 1. I have it in that the recipe.
Right.
You actually have that one there.
Okay.
So seasonings all depends what you want. I mean, you can put paprika in it. You could make it spicy for the mashed cauliflower. So I want to drain it a little bit, and now I let it sit just for a second, because if it's got too much water on it, then it makes it too runny.
Okay.
So this one here is a half a head of cauliflower. In my recipe that I gave you, it's a whole head, so it would call for an entire tablespoon of butter. So in this case, I do a half. And I think I said a half a teaspoon of salt. And in this case, actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this off. In that case, I do just to help you guys out, but you don't really have to, you know. So I do like maybe a 1/4 now. And if you want to, you can add a little bit of pepper, but you don't have to.
Now, if we didn't have a food processor, could we just go ahead and steam it on the oven top, stove top?
I bet you that thing would make some good margaritas.
I'm saying.
So this is what the mashed cauliflower looks like. So now you guys get to try it.
Okay. Oh, they do look good.
So this roasted now for about an hour at 450. And I started it off by broiling it and then turned it into 450 baking. and for about an hour. And
So you
then
have onion,
there's
squash,
onions, summer squash, zucchini, and mushrooms.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and we had the earlier part of seasoning
Looks
it
good.
taped. So we can try. Okay, so I'm cooking up some leeks. So this just kind of shows you how I cut the leeks, about this size. And this is here the end part that usually the leaves don't look very nice anymore. So that's the part that I kind of toss away. I also then rinse it out really good, or sometimes I like to even soak it in a bowl for a little bit because leeks can be very sandy and have lots of sand in it, so you want to make sure you get it all out. And then I strain it, and I'm going to start heating up a pot with about 2 tablespoons of butter, since it's that many leeks. So I'm melting the butter in it right now, and it's on about medium heat. Okay, so now I'm adding the leeks in it. I have a whole another one over here, but I want to stir this up a little bit first. I'm going to add some salt and pepper in it. I'm stirring it all up. I added the other leeks, and I'm stirring it all up because I want to get a little bit of butter on all of it. So I stirred it up good, and now I'm going to put a lid on it, and I'm going to let it soften here for a few minutes. Well, maybe 5 minutes. I let it soften for about 5 minutes. So this is about 5 minutes later, and there is a little bit too much juice here in the bottom. So now I'm going to let it cook on low, maybe on like level 3 or 4, and I want some of that water to dissipate, get them a little softer, because if it's too thin down there, if there's too much juice and water in there, it will, the butter flavors kind of go away. So I want that to get a little thicker there on the bottom so it covers all the leeks. This is what it looks like when it's done. And now you can put it in the refrigerator and eat it for the rest of the week.